Hello, this is Angela Anderson. Thanks for joining me for this acrylic painting tutorial. In this video, I'm going to be showing you how to paint a simple cherry tree. I'm going to try to keep it really easy for beginners. I've got my husband, Mark, with me.
Hey there, everybody.
He's man in chat for our live show, so if you have questions while I'm painting, you can ask those, and I'll try to answer them. Let's get started. Alrighty, so I'm going to be using a 9 by 12 inch canvas panel. This is a Fredrix linen board, Belgian Linen Pro Series, and thank you to them for providing our canvases today. I've got a few brushes here I'll go over really quick. I've got a number 10 bright, a number 6 Filbert, a number 3/8 angle Deerfoot Stippler, Willow's blender, 1/4 inch, a 10/0 Bristle fan, and then I've got a 1/4 inch and a 3/8 inch angle shader, and a number 1 and a 18/0 short liner. This one's a short liner, and this one is, the number 1 is the round. All of these brushes are available in a new set on my recommended list at the Brush Guy. So if you're interested in checking that out, it's down in the link. So I'll be using, I think, all of these brushes tonight, plus maybe a couple more. I'm calling it the basic or essentials beginner set. And basically, I'm going to show you how to use each one of those brushes tonight in case you're a new painter and kind of looking for a set to begin with. It'll be a good one for you. All right, I'm also going to possibly use the number 2 round and a little bit larger Willow's blender. That's a 3/8 inch one. And then I did the background with the number 2, the 2-inch red line paddle. That's called the paddle, the short, no-handled brush. And that is also now in my Brush Guys list. I know we've been waiting a few months now for those to get added to the list, and they're on there now. So very good. Yeah. I also have a sea sponge for possibly some of the tree work. I'm not sure if I'm going to use it or not, but I have it just in case. And then you'll want some chalk or something to draw on your canvas, maybe some watercolor paper or something like that. I will have a traceable available also.
And we'll have those sponges in the sea for anybody who's interested.
These are available on Amazon in a pack, multi-pack. Oh. And I have a list on Amazon with all of the basic supplies also.
The sea would be more fun.
Quinacridone Magenta, Cadmium Red Light, Yellow Oxide, Cadmium Yellow Medium, Phthalo Green Yellow Shade, Burnt Sienna, Burnt Umber. Actually, this is Light Burnt Umber. This is Burnt Umber, Carbon Black, Titanium White, and Unbleached Titanium. The only reason I've got Light Burnt Umber is because it's a liquid color. I got liquid, these are the fluid acrylics, I should say, golden fluids. They're thinner, and they just make it a little bit easier when you're doing tree trunks and things like that. So if you don't have those, that's fine. You can still use heavy body acrylics. And this one is just they don't have a burnt umber in the fluid acrylic. So you have to get it in burnt umber light. So we'll be using that color. And then I also have it in the Quinacridone Magenta. Those would be our tree trunk colors. Black, burnt umber light, and quinacridone. And as always, if you don't have these exact colors, just use what you've got. That is close. I have covered the background with half titanium white and half unbleached titanium. It looks kind of orange the way it dried, but it is just those two colors, half and half. And then I've let it dry completely. So I'm going to use some chalk, and our drawing is really simple. We've just got kind of a curved line here, and it's probably maybe 2 inches up from the bottom. And I'm just going to draw it at an angle, kind of come out almost flat, just slightly angled. And then it comes down pretty steeply here to the corner, and then comes up just a little bit in the corner there. And then there is a mountain behind that is right in here, and it is going to be in pink. It's going to be behind our tree. And it kind of mimics the shape of the hill here, the front hill, just a little bit, and curves down like that. And that's pretty much all the drawing we're going to do right now. There's some details up in the sky here, but we're going to go ahead and use our larger brushes for that. I'm going to get out these 3, I think. Mark's over there eating. can
What?
hear you eating.
I'm being very quiet.
We're chewing pretty loudly. Oh, my shirt's like got a whole string coming off of it. Excuse me. Oh, I can hear it popping. It's really well made. That's why it's one of my painting shirts. It's one of our old band t-shirts from when Spencer was still in band. Our son's 17 now. He quit band last year, but I still have all his band shirts. I was like, well, why not painting them? They'll get ruined. So they go to good use. All right, I'm going to use straight titanium white over the top of this for the clouds that are behind our tree, and it'll still kind of show through that. You can see how it's already kind of showing through that underlayer there. I'm going to go ahead and use this large flat. I added a little bit of water to it, not much, and I'm just going to pull it up from that line of my hill. And just try to kind of keep it wispy up at the top here. So I'm just, once I lay down my heavy color down here, where I want it brightest, then as the paint runs out of my brush, I'm just going to kind of wisp it across. And it's going to catch on the texture and kind of fade out for us. And I'm going to go back in here and add a little bit brighter color in a couple places here. But that's about all we're going to do there. Actually, there's the white kind of goes a little higher, so I'm going to go ahead and bring that brighter white up at the top. I take it back. I'm not done with the white. Okay, but again, put the color darkest where you want it, and then just kind of fade it out on the edges. And then get some water. I'm just going to set that aside for now. I'm going to grab this brush here. And this brush, I'm going to start with this one. I'm going to lay a little bit of this pink. So I'm going to grab some Quinacridone Magenta and some Cadmium Yellow Light. Here we go. And then I'm going to grab this Unbleached Titanium, which was kind of our background sky color here, right? It's just a little bit darker. Oh, there we go. Okay. So we're going to put that on. And then while that's still wet, I'm going to take this brush. I'm going to get a little bit of my white. And I'm going to fuzz out those edges. And I'm just going to kind of touch into that wet paint so it's picking it up a little bit. And pull it down into my other colors. Do small sections if you need to. You can, but work quickly. Put a little bit more of this color on. If it starts to dry, you can always add more of this. There we go. Now this is a new kind of way of doing clouds. Normally I do kind of glazing or dry brush clouds, but this is kind of a wet into wet effect. Thought I'd show you something different tonight. And I think it's kind of effective for this since we've got such kind of subtle color back in here. There's not a whole lot of bright color in our clouds. So this is a good way of doing them. We can get kind of soft, fluffy clouds this way. Going back in with a little bit of brighter white here, right along that edge. Pulling it in. But I'm just not wetting this brush down, so it's just full strength paint. And just trying to get some cloudiness. Now, if we want to, we can take the white and the unbleached titanium, mix those together, which was our background color, right? And kind of use that as our transition right here in a couple places. Just to kind of soften up that edge. But I'm pretty happy with that. I think it kind of turned out pretty nice. So I'm going to use a little bit of this. I'm going to get a little bit more of that unbleached titanium So it's just a little bit lighter tint. I'm going to use a little bit of it up in this corner, and we're going to do the same thing. I'm going to lay it on fairly quickly and fairly thick, and then grab a little bit of that white and just dab into that corner. And I'm using different brushes so that this brush stays white and this brush stays with the color. And that way we don't have to clean our brushes out in between.
So we got a couple questions when you have a moment.
Do it.
So somebody asked, well, okay, so first we had, was that yellow oxide she picked up? That was a little while ago.
Yes. Yellow Oxide Quinacridone Magenta.
Okay. And
was our pink for this guy here.
All right. And is Angela using zinc white?
No.
No. And then the final question is, do you prefer water or medium for blending the kind of work that you're doing on the sky?
I'm using water tonight, just because this is not, I'm working thick with paint, so I don't need the glazing liquid to thin my paint out. I'm trying to keep my paints kind of thick, and so I'm going to go back down here and add another layer of white and just kind of add some cloudy kind of ness to the bottom here. This should be dry-ish mostly, so may not be 100%, so just be careful, but I think we're getting close. So this is a little bit different from the other clouds that I've done. That's why I didn't use zinc white, because I was going over such a light color. My background was already pretty light, and there's not going to be, like if I was using a blue sky, I would be using zinc white, but because my background is already so light, it's so close to white already that I don't need that subtle zinc white. Zinc whites just helps you get that kind of more subtle look. But this is already subtle enough, with the white on white, basically, that we're doing here. So we don't really need to have the zinc transparent white. All right, I'm just going to go over this pink, just kind of soften the whole thing up just a little bit, get a little bit more white, and then that's all I'm going to do for this. And if you want to simplify it, you could just leave it, you could just kind of do white on this. You don't have to do the pink in the corner if that stresses you out. Really, this is your painting, so I would say just go with whatever level you're at. If you're doing this with kids or something like that and you want to simplify it, I think that you could definitely just kind of do maybe a soft pink in the background. You don't have to do any clouds at all, and I think it would still look really nice once we get our tree on top. It's not going to matter all that much what this guy looks like. We're just kind of trying to match it up to our reference photo, that's all. All right. Did you have another question then?
Well, I was going to ask what percentage is dryish. And then you said not 100%, so I figure there's a percentage associated with dryish.
98% maybe.
98%.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll write that down.
I want it, yeah.
Put that in my art journal.
Mostly dry. All right, I'm going to go a little bit more pink. So I'm just adding a little bit more pink to the color that we did up here, right? So that, and by pink I mean that Quinacridone Magenta. And I'm just going to go in here, and that might be too bright, so I'm going to get a little bit more white here. I don't want it much darker than our sky color, so I want it fairly close to the sky color. It'll dry darker, so don't, if we put it on a little bit more pale than we think we want, it'll dry a little, probably just about the perfect color. So I'm going to go a little bit paler. There we go. Then I think I want it to dry, and as I'm tapping it along that edge, I'm just going to let that edge of my brush create a little fuzzy tree-like whatever. I'm just tapping this brush straight up and down here along this edge. This is really easy. And then just pulling the rest of it there. See how it's making it look like it's kind of trees? Just tap, tap, tap. And just making sure that I go over my lines so that I'm covering it all up. All my chalk lines are going away. This is a really fun project. I think I'm going to really try to keep it simple, so this could be something that you tried for your first, maybe second painting and have some success with it. I'm trying to do simpler paintings on Tuesday nights so that or beginners. Usually Saturdays are kind of the more complicated paintings. Trying to keep my Tuesday night ones a little bit more simplified. And we did a really fun tree for lava soap last Thursday night with bubble wrap. So we're not going to use bubble wrap tonight, but you totally could. You could do the same technique that I used in my lava soap one on Facebook. And you just go to the lava soap page. Just Google lava soap Facebook and it'll pop up and you go there and you can find my tutorial real easily.
Make the most awesome tutorial on lava.
Now, if it's 2 years from now, you might not find it as easily.
No, it'll probably be under greatest Facebook video on lava
Ever. Yeah.
And that'll come up the first.
So awesome, honey.
Just saying.
You're my best fan. All right, so I'm not even cleaning my brush out. I'm just going to grab some of this burnt sienna. I grabbed some more white. And I'm going to, oh, so it's a little bit darker. Here, I'm going to pull up from the bottom all the way across and just kind of tap over that edge. The colors should be similar, so you won't have a harsh line there. I'm not worried about my line yet. I'm going to be putting grass over the top of this, so I just want to kind of cover that up there. Okay, that's good. I'm going to grab a little bit of burnt umber with this color and do a little bit more. Just tapping from the bottom and just swiping it up. Very quick. Don't have a whole lot of paint on my brush, so it's creating this kind of fuzzy edge on my brush. There we go. Okay, I think that's good.
So can I take an impromptu poll?
Sure.
Okay. Is it okay to lick the inside of an empty Doritos bag? I'm asking for a friend.
You're asking for a friend.
Yes. Oh, and welcome to the channel, everybody.
Yes.
Thanks for joining us tonight.
Very happy to have you. If you haven't already, we hope you'll subscribe and come back and join us. We do this a couple times a week. Believe it or not, Mark keeps coming back for more.
And she keeps putting up with me. So.
It's working out great.
Take a little bit more risks in what I say during the show because, I know there's some protection for me. No.
What do you mean?
No, like the impromptu poll.
Like what?
Nothing.
You have witnesses is what you're saying? I see. Okay. I see. All right, so I'm making a dark green-brown color. Believe it or not, this is going to be the underside of our tree. The dark leaves that are kind of in the background. And I've decided to go ahead and use my sponge, wet it down. If you don't have the sponge, you can use this brush here, this Deerfoot Stippler, and just smush it flat and stipple with it. It works pretty similar to this, but this is just bigger, so it'll cover our area faster. For me, that's the only reason I'm using it instead of my Deerfoot Stippler. So my tree's going to live right here. He's going to be right in here, and he's going to have kind of two layers. So he's going to have one layer here and another layer going across here. So I'm going to do this bottom layer, and I'm just going to kind of tap all along this ridge right in here. Dark green and just bring out. So it's green and a little bit of the pink or the magenta. And if you don't have this, it's going to look weird, but if you don't have the dark underneath, I'm going to do more magenta up here because this up here is getting a little bit more light. It's more reddish. Your tree won't have any depth. It'll just be like a light pink tree. We've got some serenading going on by the mockingbird's back.
The storm has passed and he's back.
I had so many comments about him singing the other night when we were painting. They said it felt like we were outside with in the meadow. Okay, there we go.
We pay him in birdseed.
What?
We pay him in birdseed.
We pay him in birdseed, yeah. So he can sing our songs for us during the show. Okay.
That's looking pretty cool.
What?
Said that's looking pretty cool.
Oh, thanks. Okay, so I think that that's pretty good. I decided to go over the top. I realized that some of the tree was over the top of the mountain there. So you don't need to do too much, and be sure that you're leaving lots of the background colors showing through, because in your trees you're going to see through to the sky. So it's not going to be solid. All right, let's go ahead and start our tree trunk. And I'm going to grab that burnt umber and a little bit of black and quinacridone. Dark reddish brown. Okay, and I'm using the number 2 round, but if you wanted to, you could use your number 4 or I'm sorry, 1/4 inch angle brush, angle shader, or 3/8 inch. Let's see, so there's our halfway mark. So I'm going to come in from the halfway mark and go right up at a V. I'm going to draw a V. So I'm going to do like this and like this. And if you're using a traceable, this is when you would want to put it on. You could put it on at the beginning and draw out your trace on your hills, right? And then do your sky, do this, then trace on your tree and your fence. And that way you're not painting over part of it that you've traced on. So this is where you would trace on if you want to. Trace on your tree. But we're going to paint a V. I'm not worried about the bottom of it at all because we're going to be covering all of that up with grass. And I'm just going to kind of tap along that outside edge of my tree trunk so that it looks kind of textured and knobby a little bit. Right, so once I get up to this part that we've got colored, all of this is going to be pretty much covered up, but I'm going to go ahead and do kind of a winding branch. It's going to come out pretty low here and then come up this way, come out like that. This is big snaking branch. Now what I want to do is go back through here and make sure that my thicker parts of this branch are down toward the base and the thinner parts are as you go out. So I don't want any like thick sections way out here. If you get some, that's fine. We can still cover those up with, we'll just, cover them up with some tree branches, but try not to get any super thick areas back in here. And I'm just going to do the same thing with this one. This one's going to kind of come in and wiggle this way. And then do back like that. And you can always use like a Sharpie or a pen that's a water-soluble pen, or not a water-soluble pen, waterproof pen. Like India ink or something like that. Faber-Castell makes some good pens. Sakura Pigma. I've got all of those down in my supplies list, also on Amazon. So if you're interested in doing the branches with a pen, you can make it a lot easier. Now, of course, you'd have to use black, but I don't think it would matter all that much. It'll be a little bit darker, but I don't think it would make that much difference to your overall look. So totally can do this with a pen if you want to. I'm all about making painting process fun. I know when you're learning to paint, it can be kind of stressful. So any tips or tricks that I can give you to make your painting a little bit more successful, a little bit more fun for you, I definitely feel like you should take advantage of all the different resources that are out there for you. There's a lot of people that kind of thumb their noses at traceables and things like that, but I'm not one of them. I feel like that's how I started. You got to start somewhere. So, hopefully you'll work on your drawing skills, and eventually, if that's something you want to do, you can always work on that. But it doesn't mean you can't paint while you're working on other skills too. So. Yep.
The first bike I had training wheels.
Exactly. Yep. That's a good way of thinking of it. Okay, I'm just going to put some branches out here where I've got all this happening, and then I've got some that are coming down here low. That are coming down kind of behind our fence. And if you want to, this is a good time to switch off to a smaller brush, like our liner brush that we have in our Brush Guys set. And if you are using a liner brush, let me show you what you want to do with that. And then we could use number 1 round, but I'm going to go ahead and show you the even smallest one, this 18-aught. What you're going to want to do, use the same paint. And the nice thing about this fluid paint is it's already fairly thin, so you don't really have to add a whole lot of water to it. That's why I like to use it for lining things, because when you line, you really need to thin out your paint. So if you are going to be using water to thin out your paint and you want it to be kind of a milky consistency, you should be able to see through your palette when you scrape through it. But it should still be opaque in the dark areas here. You shouldn't be able to see through it all the way through. You might want to use a little bit of glazing liquid or something like that that's going to have a medium in it that will keep your paints from unbinding to your canvas. If you use too much water with these heavy body acrylics, they won't bind to the canvas very well. But if you're using craft acrylics, then that's not an issue because they have a lot of binder already, so you don't really have to add more. You can thin those down just about as much as you want. So we'll go ahead and add out some branches way out here, coming down. And we'll put in some more pink out here. With these liner brushes make it really easy, and I choke up pretty tight on it when I'm painting with these. And I also find that it's easier if you turn your canvas to the direction that you would normally write. So normally I would be holding this and turning it, and that's one of the reasons why I don't really tend to work on with an easel, because I like to move my canvas around as I'm painting with it. But if you are using an easel, you can definitely do this. Work with the liner. You just may have to turn your canvas on the easel a little bit. There's some down in here that I missed. What are you laughing at?
We got a new person in chat, and they're like, I'm new, but moo. They're not sure why, but everybody else is doing it, so I'm going to moo too. So just hang in there. It'll make sense soon. Yeah. It'll make perfect sense.
That's great. So we obviously got a super chat donation. Go cleave in there. That's awesome. Okay, so there we go. That's our beginning of our tree, basic tree. Here I'm going to grab some of my Unbleached Titanium and my larger brush again, and some of my pink. Just make kind of a lighter gray pink color. And I'm just going to tap that in over my trunk in some places just to give it a little bit of rough texture. I'm just kind of wiggling my brush. I'm not worried at all about any particular brush stroke. It doesn't have to look smooth. That's kind of the point. We're kind of wanting it to look kind of rough and ugly. So just wiggle it on there. And if it looks way like out of place, you may have your color too bright. So just tone it down a little bit, add a little bit of your darker color. So if it's like way in your face and you're like, whoa, then you probably have put on too much of the lighter color. Okay, so here's another layer, just a little bit lighter. All right, that's pretty much it for the tree, for that part of the tree at least. Let me think what I want to do next. Let's go ahead and do the tree. We'll finish the tree first, and then we'll do the fence, because we're going to work from back to front, because the fence is in front of the tree, and then the grass is in front of everything else. So we'll just go ahead and do the tree. We did the sky, we did the mountains, and we're going to finish the tree, and then we'll work forward. So I think I'm going to go ahead and use this brush because I'm going to get more control out of it. I'm going to tap, tap, tap into my magenta here. And a little bit of white, but I'm going to go pretty bright with this. It's pretty bright up here at the top. Might add just a touch of the yellow oxide. And the yellow oxide will just kind of tone it down just slightly. Just kind of turns it down a notch. Yeah, so it's a more natural color. All right, and I'm just going to use the tip of my brush and just tap, tap, tap. And I'm making sure that I'm leaving lots of that background color showing through. This is just about the perfect color right here. So I didn't add very much white to it. It's very dark. And on some of these, you can see that kind of the branches look like they're going in a straight line almost. So I'm going to turn my brush on its side and just kind of tap in a line. You can get pretty thin lines out of it that way. And then when I want a little bit more surface covered, but I'm only ever really touching the tip of it. I'm never kind of pressing it down flat. Let me do it on paper so you can see what I'm talking about. So this brush is angled for a reason. You don't want to, I very rarely will smush it down like that, because you're going to get a really round blob of color. So what I'm going to do is angle it and touch the tip of it. You see the difference? So I'm barely touching just the tip down and tap, 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 as opposed to smush, smush, smush. Now, there's sometimes when I want that, because, you know, if I'm doing a large bush, I may want to cover it mostly with that, and that's when I would press down with that back end of it. But when I'm wanting to keep it controlled, I'm going to use just the tip, and I'm going to angle my brush almost like this. You can see how much it's angled. It's angled, and I'm just touching the tip down. So this is what we're doing with our tree. I'm taking a little bit more time than normal just to show some techniques here, since I know this is going to be more of a beginner lesson. Some of my, get complaints from people sometimes, saying, you go too fast. And, if I'm going too fast and I'm not explaining this kind of stuff, then that probably means it's an advanced lesson. Because you usually don't explain this stuff in my more advanced classes, because I figure you already know, how to hold your brush and control it and that kind of thing. So, this case, we're going to go a little bit slower and just kind of make sure that you sort of have some of these basics, so you have a good understanding of how to use the brush and control it. So I'm really liking this. You can see now how that dark color underneath was important, because we're getting really good depth here. I'm going to get some more of the Quinacridone Magenta and just go in with a bright red, just almost solid quinacridone up here in just a few places. There's an area kind of right in here that is almost solid. Very little of the background color showing through. Okay. And then as we get down to the bottom, I'm going to add more of my yellow and more of my white. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and grab that Unbleached Titanium, because it's also got the Unbleached Titanium is basically yellow oxide plus white. So I'm just skipping a step, grabbing that. I'm going to add a little bit of the burnt sienna to it. So darken it up out here. Change the tone. There's a lot of different colors on this tree. The upper area is mostly pink, and then as we get down to the bottom, it's more green. Greenish, light baby pink. So getting that. We didn't do our dark color out here, so I'm just kind of putting a little bit of that darker color in here in a few spots. And then as we get kind of to where we want a little bit more control, what we can do, I covered up my whole white area that was right in the middle there. I don't know what I did there. Well, I was supposed to leave a big white open spot there, but I didn't do it. You got to going at it. I did. That's all right.
That's probably where the sun was.
I don't know. There's no telling. It still looks all right. All right, so I'm going to switch to a smaller brush now. I can either get my 1/4 inch or 3/8 inch. I'll go ahead and use a 1/4 inch because that's the one in our brush kit, the beginner's brush set. I'm trying to show you as many of these brushes that are going to be in that set as possible tonight, in case you're interested in picking one up. And the nice thing is the brush guys discounted it a little bit. So the normal price was over $50 and they've brought it down to under $50. It's like, I think the regular retail was $103 of all these brushes, and they, and these are good quality brushes. These are not your cheap brushes. These brushes should last you years if you take good care of them. So I'm of the opinion that even beginners should start with good brushes, because you're going to get better results with a good brush than you will with a brush that is really cheaply made. You're going to have a lot easier time of your painting experience will be a lot easier, and you'll have a lot less frustrations. But anyhow, I think the set is like retails on the brush guys for like $49.99 or something like that. So they were able to get it down, and then you get another 5% off if you use the code Angela Fine Art. So it's actually basically 10% off of their normal prices. If you buy all of these brushes separately, not in the kit, it's $55 or something like that. So save $5 plus another 5%, so not too bad.
Yeah, so save.
That was really nice of them.
Close to $8.
Yeah. Plus, their prices are much discounted. Like I said, they're already pretty well discounted, so it's kind of nice. All right, so I'm going to try to go in here and kind of do some individual little things. These are not quite small enough for me, so I'm going to go ahead and switch now to my angle brush. I really like the angle brush for this kind of brush, for like flowers and flower buds, because if you hold it straight down, the tip makes these random circle shapes that you really have. You can get them with the round brush, but they're not the same. They're not as easy to control. They tend to be look like lines instead of, I don't know if you can see the difference there. No, you can't really on the Trust me. So these angle brushes, that's why I have 2 of them in the set, because they're just really are versatile. All right, so I'm going to use the tip of it, and I'm just going to hold it down. I'm going to add some light pink blossoms over the top of my dark areas. I'm leaving some of the trunk showing, so I'm kind of trying not to cover all the trunk up. And this is basically white. It's got a little bit of the pink in it that we've been using, but that pink, the quinacridone and yellow oxide color, but it's mostly white. And this is going to be our color for some of our highlight. I can also use the Deerfoot Stippler again. And when you use Deerfoot, you want all that water out of there. So I'm going to really smush it down. You can beat the heck out of these brushes. They're pretty indestructible. In fact, I like them better the longer I have them, because they start to flare out more the more you abuse them. So these are the only brush that I would recommend abusing that way. But okay, so I'm just going to kind of lay a little bit of this over, same color, just to kind of soften up the lines. So we got a few dots, and then we're just kind of going over our pink. Let's grab some yellow, do some light yellow, pink. There we go. Just a little bit more on the yellow side than the pink that we've been using. So very similar to the color that we used over here in the corner of the sky. And I'm getting close to being kind of too much going on here. I don't want to cover up all of my dark underneath, so I need to stop pretty soon here. Do a few more little spots, but grab a little bit of the green and mix that with my pink, magenta, and this yellow color that I've got on my brush. I'm going to use it down here, and it's going to kind of be like a soft, almost teal green. It's really pretty. Just use it in a few spots, very selectively.
Somebody wants to know, can they use your primary magenta?
I think so, yeah. I think it would probably be very similar. Okay, I feel like I covered all my dark on there. I'm going to grab some of my tree trunk color here. Some of my magenta. I'm just going to go back in here and tap in. Just a little bit of it. Okay, there we go. And when I'm doing my dark, I'm doing it kind of at the bottom here. You may not have to do this. It's just I feel like I was kind of covered up all my dark there. So I like that. And now if you want to, you could go back in. You could cover, you could go back in and draw back out some of your tree trunk. So like in here, maybe I want some of that curve to show up. So I might paint that back in, maybe up in here. I think I kind of left the bottom pretty well uncovered, which is good. So I'm going to Call that good. Once that dries, I can go in and tap over, or I can just kind of tap it out with my finger there, so I don't have like a hard line where the pink stops and the other color begins. Yeah, I wish I'd left that area there in the middle. Sky color. I could probably paint it back in, but I don't know if I...
All right, well, we'll stop the video. We'll start from the beginning. Take 2.
Let me see if I can get it back in there. I'm going to paint a little bit of it back in there. Why not, right? This is what you can do if you make a mistake, or like I did, you know, paint too much. Acrylics are pretty forgiving. You can always go back in and kind of fix your spots. So I want a little bit more of my sky showing right there. And then I want to cover my hole, right? So I've got kind of like a strong line there now around it. So I'm just going to grab my colors that we've been using. Just tap a little bit this time. Just a little bit to soften up the borders of that. And you can tap over your go. Get that light pink color. That was our highlight color. Tap a little bit of it. Grab some of my green, brown. Tap a little bit of it. Just a little bit of all these colors that we've been using, right? And now I've got a little spot there in the middle that looks good. The bird is singing its heart out.
All right, so you talked about it earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Did you tell them where they could get the traceables?
Patreon. No, I didn't, did I? Patreon.com. See, I put my mountain up a little high there, too. I probably would have preferred having my mountain down, or put my tree down too low, which one or the other. I would have liked a little bit of my mountain peeking through, but that's all right. All right, so I'm going to grab my round brush here, and I'm going to get my fence posts in. So I'm going to use some of that magenta. And again, I'm going to use the thinner paints because it'll do my lines easier. This is where I can use my angle brush too, though, so I'll use my larger angle brush for this. So I'm going to grab the brown, black, magenta, and my fence post is right here next to my tree. And right out here. So this one, and it's kind of angled. So I'm going to go ahead and do this one kind of at an angle here. And these are a rusty old fence, so it doesn't have to be perfect, which is nice. If you wanted to, you could do another one here and another one here. There's a really long distance between these posts and this fence. Oh, there's another one there. And this one's shorter because we're not seeing as much of it. It's kind of behind our hill. All right, and then I'm not going to try to do my long lines. That's one tip that I would say. If you're doing a very long line, I like to use my angle brush or a flat brush. But in this case, this is our best option. So I'm going to push that brush flat. And I have a fairly good amount of paint on here, but it's not dripping with paint. And I'm going to angle it and just kind of make sure that I have enough space to get a smooth line. And I'm using my hand here to anchor my hand. So I'm holding my brush really close up, and I'm using this pinky. And if you don't want to touch your canvas, you can have another hand under here to do like this, or have it setting like this. But you want to get it right up over your line, and you want your brush to be perpendicular to your canvas if you can get it, and lay that flat edge of the angle straight down on your straight flat. So here's my canvas edge. I'm going to lay that angle straight flat, and I'm going to pull my line. And you'll be surprised at how easy this is to do with an angle brush. So I'm going to set this down. I'm going to press down just a little bit so I get a kind of a large line. See that? And then I'm going to start here, and I'm going to go right down here, and I'm going to go all the way to that post. Whoops. Okay. And then I'm going to continue it off the canvas. And then I'm going to get this one here and about halfway up. So right about here, I'm going to do the same thing and try to keep them even. But if they're not, that's fine. It doesn't have to be perfect. And if you want to, you could do them in small sections. And that'd be fine too, because it would look like kind of rough wood. So if you don't want to do this long line on this, you could do it in small sections. In fact, I'm going back through and kind of roughing it up. So it's not exactly perfect on that edge, right? Some of it's a little bit janky. It's rough wood. Okay, that. So let's kind of muss up this one. Mushing it up just a little bit. Okay, and this can go right up like that. And then there's actually another one down here if you have room for it. A little piece right there. Do one more layer of this light pink on here. Try to get it really bright. It is.
I love you.
Give him Mark faces. Naked faces at my tree. I'm going to use some of that brown with my quinacridone. I still feel like I need some dark in here. I just made it all a little bit too light down here at the bottom, so I'm going to put back in some of my dark. There we go. Much better. See the difference between that? That was just what was bugging me. It was like way too light, all light down there. Okay, so now I'm happy. I was making faces at Mark because I was like, what is wrong with my tree?
Not enough baby talk. That's what I'm talking about.
I know. That's pretty much all I say anymore. Baby talk. with our little grandbaby around.
There was art day in the studio today.
We did. We had major art day in the studio today. And I posted a little bit of it, of the fun, on my Patreon. So let me see if I can pull up the video of him smushing his feet on there. It was pretty funny. He was getting into pounding his feet on the canvas. And we had to we started out taking the pants off first, and then we ended up having to take all the clothes off because he was just trying to get in there and look at, okay, now he starts really stomping. He's like, yes, this is awesome. So, yeah, that's what we did today in the studio. Lots of fun with our grandbaby Liam.
And I thought that was going to be tonight's tutorial, but apparently not.
No, sorry. I
came prepared. I was dressed appropriately.
What do you mean?
With just my shorts.
Oh, right.
I was very disappointed. All right.
You're wearing your diaper and everything, huh?
In a few more years, probably.
All right, so I'm using some of the Cadmium Red Medium here. And I'm going to use this brush. I've kind of flattened it out. I'm using thick paint this time. And I'm going to skim it along the top of my wooden fence rail. And I want it to kind of dry brush. I don't think you can see that. But we're just catching the texture, kind of like we did on our tree. Yeah, there we go. Just making some rough wood texture, just barely touching it down. I'm going to get some of that. Darker color there, and make sure that I have it nice and dark where I need it dark. And go back underneath here and darken up some of that. Okay, and then this is totally optional. You don't have to even do the fence if you don't want to do that part. If it stresses you out having to do these lines, it's totally up to you what you want to do with your painting. So I'm going to use some of that bright yellow. Just barely skim that brush on here. Just get a little bit of that color.
So somebody has asked, could they glaze over the fence to soften it?
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, what I'm doing right now is adding texture though, so the glaze won't add texture. So if you want that textured look, then I would wait and do the glaze after you do this part. All right, so that's good. I just wanted a little bit of extra highlight there, and then now let's grab our fan brush. So we can use either one of these. I'll show you the Willow's blender first, and then we'll use our fan brush. So I'm going to grab the burnt umber, a little bit of burnt sienna, and I'm just grabbing that light burnt umber since it's there. And I'm going to put in some dark areas in our grasses. So I'm just setting this brush down and flipping it up. And it's got... We'll go ahead and do it all along there. It's actually doing pretty good for me, so I'm going to keep on going with this. Having a little bit thinner paint will help it come off your brush a little bit easier. I don't want it too much brown, but there's a lot of brown underneath. It's kind of like the same with our tree. We want a little bit of dark color underneath so that our lighter colors can show up against it. So we'll do a little bit of dark areas in our grasses here. Okay. Then I'm going to switch to this brush.
So which brush were you just using?
I was just using the 3/8 inch Willow's blender. You could use a 1/4 inch one too.
Okay.
I'm going to use a little bit of cadmium yellow, medium, a little bit of my phthalo green, and some yellow oxide here. And I'm going to set my brush down and flick it upward. And if it's not coming off, you can get a little bit of water, add that. There we go. Be a little bit easier with a little bit of water on my brush. When I'm doing grasses, I always want to change up the direction. You can do them on this side too. I think I was liking that other brush better. Seemed like it was giving me a little bit more control. I'm going to go ahead and go back to that one. It may have just been that it was thinner. We'll see. I'm going to add a little bit of that brown to it too.
Somebody
I'm going to start up at the top here. What?
Somebody just asked which angle you were using.
This is the 3/8 inch.
3/8 inch angle.
Mm-hmm. And this is for the fence, the 3/8 inch. This is the 3/8 inch Willow's blender. You can go right up over the edge there, and if it's not dark enough to cover that fence post, I'm going to get a little bit of brown. Changing direction, so some of them this way, some of them this way. Grasses tend to grow in these little clumps that sort of fan out. So I'm just kind of trying to replicate that a little bit. And I'm just kind of doing short sections here that overlap one another. And we'll be able to see it better once we add our lightest colors on here. These are just kind of our initial colors, but it's already kind of sort of coming together, right? I'm going to grab my Unbleached Titanium and some of that green that's already in my brush, so I'm not cleaning out my brush. I'm just grabbing a bunch of the Unbleached Titanium to mix with it and some water. Creating a light yellow, green, and this is where we'll go over again. And this time I'm going to maybe use a lighter touch. Maybe use the corner of my brush so that I get some smaller brush strokes. Mainly concerned about right in here. I just want to make sure that I'm covering up where my fence posts are and where my tree trunk starts. So I want these soft grasses over those areas. And if I line them up right, starting from the back, or so I'm starting from the top down, I'm going to start back here. I'm going to do my grasses, and then I'm going to do another set over the top and cover that where they meet See that? And so I can continue to go through and do that. And I've got that green underneath, so I'm not actually covering the entire thing. I'm just adding little wisps like this, and every now and then I'm making sure that I'm going over the top of the grasses in front so that by the time I get done with it all, and these ones are going right off the edge of the canvas, by the time I get done with it all, I should have, and if I get a large blob like that, I just take another color that's going to cover it and just kind of obscure that a little bit. But that's kind of what we're going for. So
that's still your 3/8?
Huh? Yeah.
Willows?
Yes, Willow's blender. And I was also using my fan brush for this too, so if you want to prefer the fan brush, you can use the fan brush instead. It's whatever's giving you better results. Some of these I'm going to make darker green, like in here. Use some of that burnt sienna and green. Darker patches of green. So it doesn't have to be all the same color. It'll make it look more natural too. Having some little dark spots and light spots kind of interspersed. And then if I do a dark spot, I can put a light spot over the top and it'll really push that back and look like it's layered. I'm going to make sure to mention this because I've been having a lot of comments about my Patreon bonus video. Those who are patrons who watch the bonus video or want to watch the bonus video that was posted this weekend, I'll show you what we did. We did it on Crowdcast instead of YouTube. So you're going to have to log into your Patreon account to get to see the show this time. But you do not have to sign up for Crowdcast. You don't need an account with Crowdcast. All you need is your Patreon login. That's all you need. You don't need to pay for anything extra. So that's what we did for our bonus video on Saturday or Sunday this week. It was 4 hours long, and we did it in 2 sessions on Sunday, and that was for the $5 level on Patreon. But I've been having a lot of people saying that they're confused and they've been asked to provide their credit card number. And I'm like, no. You don't need to sign up. I have to provide my credit card number because I'm hosting it, but you do not have to. So I had to pay to host it, but you don't have to pay to watch it.
Correct.
All you have to pay is my Patreon access, and then you get to watch it on Crowdcast. So, yeah. So just wanted to clear that up because I've been getting a lot of comments about that today, and I just wanted to make sure nobody's actually going out and buying a Crowdcast account that doesn't need to. Okay, I'm going to use before we go, I just want to add a few long wispy little branches on here. So I'm going to get my yellow and pink. My white, if I can get it out. I don't have any white. Let's get some white. But I'm pretty happy with my grass. You could add flowers, so I think it would be really pretty if you wanted to add I may add just a few little dabs of flowers here in the grass. I think I'm going to actually once I get this done. So I'm going to smush my brush down so it's all flared out a little bit, and then I'm going to dab out some longer branches there. Just little tips of flowers that are just along the edge of my tree to kind of soften up that silhouette a little bit, because they've got all these kind of long, thin tendrils that are coming out. Yeah. There we go. Okay, so let's use our little angle brush here, and we'll just grab some of the white and just do some little flowers in our field. So I'm just gonna dab on some little white dabs for some little clusters of blooms. We don't even have to make them be any kind of shape, but just little dots, and it'll look like little flowers in our field here. And flowers usually grow in the little clusters, so if you just kind of dab, 6 or 7 in a row, kind of in a little area, kind of in a line. See, from farther away, they're going to look kind of like a line. So if you kind of line them up a little bit, and let's do some up here above our fence post. Isn't that cute? I like it. Any excuse for flowers, right? Could you put any other colors you wanted to? I would stick with the color that we've already used, though. So if you wanted to do pink flowers, you could do that, or you could do a little bit of like a light yellow maybe, but not, I wouldn't go straight cadmium yellow because it'll look a little bit bright, but I could grab a little bit of my cadmium yellow medium and my yellow oxide and mix those two together with a little bit of white. And that would tone it down a little bit, and we'll just add a few of those in there.
Somebody's asked, what's a substitute for the phthalo green yellow shade?
Just use phthalo blue and yellow when you can mix it. Yeah, that's one of those colors you don't really need to buy. If you already have phthalo blue, you can mix it pretty easily. So I like the flowers on it. Okay, and then if you want to, I think just to finish it, now we'll see how well we do here. I'm gonna use my toothbrush because it'll give me smaller splatters.
Don't tell Dave.
It's for you, Dave.
I think somebody's at the door, Dave.
So I'm trying to mix up some of this unbleached titanium with it so it's a little bit soft. I don't want it like super in your face bright. And I took most of it off, so it's going to be very fine splatters. And I'm going to cover the portions of the sky that I don't want. And I'm going to get it really close to the edge of my tree. And splatter just a little bit. I'm going to splatter down here too. So basically I'm splattering everywhere. So I was protecting this whole bottom area, and then I splattered it. So I was like, okay, basically we're splattering everything except for this area right here. Okay. That just softens it all up. It kind of makes it look a little bit more, I don't know, dreamy. I like splatters. You don't have to do it if you don't, but I like them. So there we go. All right, I think we're about done. I feel like we could go a little bit brighter on our tree if we wanted to. We could go back in and do a little bit, just like magenta with a teeny tiny bit of white and no other color cutting it. Just up in here, just a little bit. I'm looking at my reference and it's really bright.
Are you filling in that space again?
Nope, I'm not. I am, but I'm going to say I'm not. No, Daddy.
Don't come in here.
Don't look over here. It's okay. It's all under control.
I think I need to add something right here in this open spot.
Why is it so plain right there?
Gosh, why did I paint anything there?
We have it all under control. All right, there we go. I think we're going to call that good. Hope you enjoyed it. Oh, not too bad, an hour and 15 minutes. So yeah, I definitely think that that's a doable time frame for, especially working with kids maybe. That's about the time that they started losing interest. When I taught my classes, they were an hour and a half. So it's about the perfect time span for a beginner lesson. All right. Oh, got some super chats. Nice. I forgot about that. I'm going to sign it while you're talking about that.
And hopefully our new viewer stayed around.
Ah, yes.
To make the connection to the cowbell and moves and chat. So this super chat is coming from Laura. And she says, thank you. I watched the Patreon video Lake Reflections and learned so much from you, Angela.
Aww.
Many of the struggles I've had were eliminated with your instruction. The painting was beautiful. Thank you both.
Thank you. Oh, thank you, Laura. That's awesome.
And can we have a moment of silence for Laura? Because it's snowing where she's at right now.
What? Laura, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Wow.
Okay.
That's tragic. I talked right through your moment of silence.
Yeah, I noticed that.
Sorry, Laura wasn't appropriately quiet. Should we try it again?
No, I mean, gosh, I'm not bringing you to a wedding or anything.
It's just so thrown by the snow. All right, so I went back in here and just adding back in some of my branches that I had covered up, but I really like it. I think it's kind of cool. Hope you like it too, and you try it. You can share it with me on my social media, and I'd love to see it. And we'll see you on what day? Saturday. That's right, our normal time, and we're going to be painting what? I know this. A raccoon. Yes, we'll be painting a raccoon. Should be fun. A little baby raccoon. And then
shouldn't be too hard to catch.
Next week we'll be doing some grasses, very similar color palette. So I think it'll be fun. Got those two. If you want to check out those and get reminders, you can click on my name or image and it'll take you to my channel homepage to show you all the videos we've got coming up. And we've already got some of our June pictures picked out. I'm really excited about some of the stuff we're going to be painting up in June. We're going to be doing some fish and some all kinds of stuff, some different stuff that we haven't done before. So yeah, it'll be fun. All right, I'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching. Bye.